Okay, people, let us begin this training, shall we? Now, this is like um more explanation or clarification on what you've already learned. You're going to be hearing some things that you didn't see or hear in the Telegram group. That's why I need you to really pay attention to this video tutorials. Okay, so now that you're ready to start a snail farm, there are some things you need to know, some basic things that you need to know. Now, I believe by now, as you finished the trainings in the Telegram, I believe you've gone through them thoroughly. I will keep saying it. If there is something you don't understand, don't hesitate to call my attention to it. Send me a DM. You can call me on phone. You have my number. But most importantly, I need you to go through them over and over again if possible. Okay, you can do one class, you can do it in the morning and then repeat it in the evening again. There are some things that you might not have seen very well in the morning that you can see in the evening. Law of repetition, right? They say is repetition is a law of lasting impression, right? Yeah, so please repeat the classes, go through them again and again and again if need be, because there are some questions that come to me that some are just not funny. Okay, those are things that I've repeatedly talked about in the trainings, and then those questions still come back at me, and it's just not cool. Okay, so that's that. So um there are some things I would like you to know. Like I said, first of all, there are two key ingredients you must know as a snail farmer. In fact, you must have as a snail farmer for you to be successful in this business. Number one of them is patience. Yes, patience, very, very important. You need to have patience. Patience, because in this part of the world, we're not used to having annual returns on investment. We're more used to monthly, weekly, some even want to go for daily returns. Okay, which is not bad, but I need to tell you that it's the same thing. If you're making a monthly return on investment of 100,000 naira monthly, and then you're making about 1.2 or 1.3 million naira from snails annually, it's the same thing. In fact, it's even better for annual returns because it will help you carry out major projects as against the one that will be coming in piecemeals. Okay, so patience is key in snail farming, and that's because snails are very slow growing animals. They don't grow very fast, so you can't succeed in this business if you're not the patient type. You already know that before they can start laying eggs for you, they must have attained about 6 months. Okay, now you don't expect your snails to attain maturity at 6 months. No, 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 they are not yet mature. Now that brings us to the two types of maturity we have. We have what is called sexual maturity, and we have physiological maturity. Now, at 6 months old, a snail is already sexually mature, which means that snail can start giving you more snails. That snail can start laying eggs for you, but that snail is not physiologically mature. What does that mean? It is not. Now, a sexual maturity means an organism is now capable of reproducing. Okay, so that's reproduction state, that's reproductive age. Okay, so that does not necessarily mean that the snail is physically or physiologically mature. Some point of lay snails are quite small, but they've started laying eggs. Okay, and if you want to start selling such snails, especially for snail meat marketers, you won't make much profit. The only people that make good profit from selling point of lay are people who sell to snail farmers. Okay, like people like you that want to go into snail farming. If you're selling your point of lay to such people, yes, you can sell them at good prices because they are also going into production. They are not eating it. because if they are eating it, definitely you want the snail meat to be bigger, to be um more mature. Okay, so that's sexual maturity. And then the physiological maturity is when an organism is has attained its full size or full growth. Okay, so those are the two maturity stages we have. And for physiological maturity in snails, it's from the ages of 12 to 18 months. So at 6 months, they are not yet physiologically mature. But like I said, they are mature enough to start laying eggs for you. So now, before I started, I told you that there are two key ingredients that you must have as a snail farmer for you to succeed in this business, right? Of which I told you number one is um, patience, okay, where we talked about the sexual and physiological stages of the snail. Now, number two is commitment. Now, you don't start up a snail farm and then not be committed to it. No, it's not done that way. It's a business, it's an investment that requires your commitment. The good thing is that snail farming does not need your attention that much, unlike other livestock productions. Snail farming does not require much of your attention. You only feed them once in a day, as you already know. Only in the evening. You don't feed them in the morning, you don't feed them in the afternoon. You only feed them once in a day, which is in the evening, which means you can do every other thing and then come in the evening to feed them. Excuse me. But if you're going into large scale farming, definitely you will need more hands. You will need a farm attendant, you will need a farm manager, and what have you. Okay, but even with those helps in the farm, your commitment is still needed. Else, your business will just be dwindling. Like you won't know where you're going to, because human beings cannot be trusted as well, which is why you're the one going through this training and not your employees. So that nobody will come and tell you what you already know. Okay, somebody will come and be telling you 40 snails died today. Okay, where are the snails now? Show me the snails. Show me their shell. Let me know that they died. In fact, you should be the one that will dispose of those snails, so that they will not take those same snails and come and show you tomorrow that another 100 snails died. So those are some tactics you need to put in place. So like I said, even if you're not the one that will be responsible for the day-to-day running of the business, you still need to be committed. At least visit your farm once in a week to know what's going on. Have a good record keeping, okay, a good record of what is going on in your farm. How many eggs were laid? Even if you're not there, you should have an idea of the eggs that were laid, the eggs that hatched, the hatchlings you have, everything. You should have every process for you to closely monitor your business, for it to flourish. Okay, if you don't have these two ingredients, which is patience and commitment, you don't have any business going into snail farming at all. I'll tell you categorically, you don't have any business going into snail farming, because these are two basic things that would make you succeed as a snail farmer. All right, as you all already know, every business is graded into small, medium, and large scale um, enterprise. Okay, but the dangers of snail farming is that even your small scale snail farming will rapidly grow into a large scale in no time. And that's because snails are highly prolific in nature. They produce rapidly. Okay, one snail, like you already know, the AA, which is the Achatina, the one that is predominantly reared by my Ghana brothers and sisters, that one can give you up to 200 to 300 snails, sometimes even up to 1,000. Okay, so they lay a whole lot of eggs. Okay, they produce a high level of offspring. In fact, I think snails are the highest when it comes to offspring production. They are the highest. Okay, so which is why it is quite risky for you to think that you're starting small, because that your small business will turn into a large business in no time. Let's take 100 snails for example. Okay, let's say you're starting with 100 point of lays. Now, this 100 point of lays, the minimum they are giving you, we're using the AMS, which is the one that is predominantly read in Nigeria, because I'm in Nigeria. We're using that one as our case study. Okay, the AMS gives you, which is the Achatina marginata sotoralis. Okay, it gives you minimum 40 snails. Minimum 40 snails. So multiply 40 times 100. That's 4,000. All right, that's 4,000 snails. And look at you who said you want to start small. Now you have 4,000 snails. So if you don't start with the mind of, okay, I will expand in no time, the snails will catch you unawares and you cannot stop them from laying eggs. They will continue to lay. In fact, those your 4,000 snails, when they grow to point of lay, if you don't sell them, they too will start laying. So one of the good things about snail farming is that after you start with the number of snails you're starting with, you don't have to go and buy any other snail again. That one set of snails will keep producing for you over and over and over and over again. Okay, so your small scale will fast grow into a large scale, so you need to be prepared ahead of time. Even if you don't have the uh, space readily available when you're starting, you already have it at the back of your mind that come on, in the next 6 to 7 months definitely I'm expounding. All right, so that's that for your small scale, medium and large scale when it comes to captured snailry. Now I'm going to talk a little about some characteristics of snails that you need to know as a snail farmer. They are really, really important and everybody ought to know about such things. Okay, now some of these things are: one, snails are hermaphrodites. I've heard some persons ask me, how do I identify a male snail from a female snail? There is no such thing as male snail and female snail. Okay, hermaphrodite means an organism that has both male and female reproductive organs, which means one snail has both the penis and the vagina. And no, I think by now some of you might be thinking, okay, that means I can start my snail farm with one snail now. No, one snail cannot impregnate itself and then start laying eggs. In as much as each of the snails have penis and vagina, they still need to mate like every other organism to reproduce. All right, for reproduction to take place, there has to be exchange of gametes for them to reproduce. So that's that about snails being hermaphrodites. The second one is snails are nocturnal animals. What do I mean when I say they are nocturnal animals? They are most active at night than the day. Okay, in fact, they sleep almost all through the night. They are dormant through the day. Sorry, they are dormant through the day, but at night they are very active, which is why we feed them in the evening, because that's when they will come out to eat your food. If you feed them in the afternoon or evening, they won't touch your food. They will not touch it, which is why we say it is quite easy for anybody to go into snail farming, because you can go to work, come back in the evening and still feed your snails very well, because that's actually the time they are supposed to eat. Okay, so snails are nocturnal animals. They are very, very active at night, but very dormant. In fact, they sleep mostly during the day. Okay, now next is that snails are vegetarians. What does this mean? It means that they predominantly feed on vegetables. Okay, that does not mean they don't eat other things like the concentrates, which are the formulated feeds that we already talked about in the Telegram group. They feed on those. That's because we need to balance their diet. Okay, they can only feed on fruits. We need to give them the balanced nutritional diet for them, and also the calcium that helps them produce more eggs and then strengthen their shell. But other than that, their predominant feeding is in or is on vegetables. All right, the next thing now, vegetables being tubers, fruits, leaves. Okay, so the next one is that snails are cold-blooded animals, which is why we water them most times even twice in a day. In the morning when you wake up and then you're going to take off the leftover foods from your snail pen, if it is during the dry season, I advise you water it that morning. Now, it doesn't take much time. If you're the type that have only 4, 5, 6 snail pen, in 30 minutes you're done with watering them and you go off to work. Okay, 10, 20, 15 minutes, you're done. You go off to work. and then in the evening you come back, you water them before you drop their feeds for them. But if it is during the raining season, you don't need to water them twice in a day. You can water them just once, which is in the evening before you give them their feeds. All right, so that's that. The next, snails of different species don't breed. Some people have asked me if there are hybrid snails. There is no such thing as hybrid snails. For those of you who don't know what hybrids are organisms that emanated from two different species of animals, like a cat and a dog giving birth to an offspring. That offspring is termed to be a hybrid, okay, because it's made up of two different species of animals, okay. But in snails, we don't have anything called hybrid snails, because snails of different species don't breed at all. In fact, it goes as far as snails of two different locations not breeding, like the same species, which is, let's take the AA for example. Let's say Achatina marginata, or sorry, the AA, which is the Achatina, you got some from Ghana, you got some from Nigeria, you're breeding the both in one place. They will find it very difficult to crossbreed, to breed, like to mate and then produce. Talk more of maybe AA and AM. It's not possible. It doesn't happen. All right. So next thing is, snails are very nutritious, which we already know. Snails are nutritious. We know that already. We're not going to talk too much about the nutrition benefits of snails. I'm just going to give you a little breakdown now. About 12 to 18% protein is found in snails. Snails has a fat level of 0.05 to 0.08. Okay, it has iron, and the iron level is about 40 to 50 milligram per kilogram of snail. Okay, 40 to 50 milligrams per kilogram of snail. Doctors recommend snails for pregnant women because it has low cholesterol. Okay, no need to talk too much about the nutritional benefits. We're here for production, so let's stick with that. All right. Okay, so the next one is, we have aquatic and terrestrial snails. Aquatic, as the name implies, water snails, and then terrestrial, land snails. But we are dealing with the land snails. Okay, those are some characteristics of snails that you need to know as a snail farmer. So when somebody says such things, they won't be strange to you. Some people didn't even know that we have water snails. Yes, we do. If you're from the south like me, you will know. In fact, I think about 3 days ago too, I ate some water snails. We eat it a lot down here. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about what we call giant African land snails. We call them the gales. Giant African land snails. This is not just a particular snail, okay? This is a combination of every snail found in Africa, West Africa precisely. Okay, now it is called giant African land snail because African snails tend to grow very big, very huge. So that's where the name giant African land snails came from. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little about AMO and AMS. You heard me call a name Achatina marginata soturalis. I remember the first time I said this to one of my students, he was like, "Ma, are you talking to me?" Yes, I'm talking to you. We have AMO, AMS. Now, no offense to my students outside Nigeria. I use mostly the ones found here in Nigeria for my studies or for my examples because I live in Nigeria here. But if for those of you who are in Ghana and other parts of Africa, especially Ghana, they deal more in Achatina marginata, the one that lay a lot of eggs. Okay, but other parts of Africa are still into AMs. Now we're talking about the AMO and AMS. They are still all under Achatina marginata, but for the AMO it is called Achatina marginata ovum. Then AMS is Achatina marginata suturalis. Now The only difference is in colors. The AMS, which is the one that we'll be using as our case study, if you check the telegram groups, you will see them. They have pink apex and pink opening, but for the AMO they have white apex and whitish opening. Okay, that's basically the difference. They breed the same number of eggs, they have the same number of mortality. And then one other thing, AAs, which is the achatina, they have higher level of mortality as well, because they lay more. Okay, they can lay as much as 1,000, but they have up to 40% mortality, which means out of that 1,000 you might be going home with 600, which is still far more than AM. But down here in Nigeria and some parts of Africa, they deal more on AM. And then in the US, AA is considered as a pest. So for those of you that are thinking of exporting, you cannot export AA. You can only export AM, AMS or AMO. Any of the AMs can be exported, but AAs are considered as pests. They don't eat it. All right. Okay, so that's that. Next, we're going to be talking about sources of foundational stock. That's where do you get your parent stock from. Parent stock means the snails that you're starting your farm with. Okay, if you look at the screen now, you will see that we have 5 different options. I'm just going to go through them. I don't want any of these videos to be too long, at most 30 minutes, so we'll go to the next one. All right, so I'm just going to explain this shortly. All right, the best of them is the ones that you get from snail farmers. Now, snail farmers are not those who go into the bush to look for snails to come and sell. No, those are not snail farmers. Snail farmers are those people like me who are involved in captured snailry. Those are the people who call snail farmers. But those people who go into the bush, look for snails to come and sell to market women, maybe they set traps for snails in the bush to come and sell to market women, they are not called snail farmers. They are farmers who engage in selling of snails. Okay, so the best option for you to get your breeding stock from is from snail farmers. Now, some of the reasons is, one, they are already used to life in captivity. Okay, unlike these other ones, like the one directly from the bush or from the retailers or from open market, they are, some of them are not some of them you don't even, in fact not some, you don't even know their age. You don't know if they are up to point of lay or if they have laid a lot of eggs. Snails, just like every other organism, as they grow older, their production rate will drop as well. If your snail at point of lay, one clutch is giving you up to 14 eggs, as it's growing older, it will not give up to that again. Sometimes maybe 2 or 3. So you would want to, you as a snail farmer that wants to start snail farming business, you would want to start with a snail that is at its peak of production. So that's why we recommend POL, which is the point of lay, for every startup. All right. Now, which is the sexual maturity we talked about. They're already mature enough to start laying eggs for you, even though they are not physiologically mature. All right. So snail farmers, they already know the ages of their snails. Like in my farm, I separate my snails, which is what virtually every snail farmer does, separating their snails according to their age. So when you're buying your snails from snail farmers, they already know what they are giving to you. And like I said before, they're already used to life in captivity. But if you go to the open market to go and buy snails, first, you don't know their age. Secondly, they are not used to life in captivity. You're just bringing them from their open bush to come and keep them in cages. Some of them will die. Some of them will refuse to eat your food because they are not used to those kind of food. They have been eating leaves on their own in the bush, not all this your watermelon, cucumber, or whatever that you want to give to them. And you yourself, you don't know what they eat in the bush that you will start giving to them. Okay, that's one. And then another thing, like the one of the research institutes, you don't know the condition that these snails have gone under. Some of them have been injected with some form of chemicals or whatever. Yes, you can still eat them, but you cannot use them for production. Okay, like the ones of open market and then the retailers, some of them bring these snails to the market. they sell till in the evening, they didn't finish them, they will bag them up, tie them, and take them to the house, bring them back the next day. They continue that routine till they finish it. And like you all know, snails are cold-blooded animals that need to be watered regularly. But these people who are selling just for the meat of it, they don't care to water it. Yes, they don't care to water it, and the snails will not die. But when it comes to production, they won't produce for you, because first of all, their routine has already been thwarted. Okay, so they can't be producing well for you anymore. It's just like a woman who is not taking good care of herself. Before you know it, infertility sets in because of one lifestyle habit, or diet, or whatever. You know what I mean? So the best option is from snail farmers. They know the exact thing to give. Like, in fact, people that buy snails from me, I give them. I also, after selling to them, I also give them timetable, food timetable. So you continue to give them what I'm already giving them, so that they will not have to now start getting used to different kind of food again. That can also affect them. Okay, so number one is always the best, any day, any time. All right, so next we're going to be talking about snail production. We'll soon round up with this. Okay, snail production. Now, snail production, I know in the Telegram group you saw somewhere where we talked about intensive, semi-intensive, and then extensive. Semi-intensive and extensive are more or less the same thing. Okay, so that's why I'm just categorizing them into these two. Intensive system of farming. Now, snails are seasonal animals. Okay, snails are seasonal animals in the sense that they are cold-blooded, so they are more active when they are in a cold environment. So in the wild, which is the ones that are in the bush, they start producing during the rainy season. In fact, during dry season, they go into what we call estivation or hibernation. That's the process where they seal up their opening just to retain the amount of food and water that they have. And that estivation process is from the month of October down to February, March. That's during the dry season. They go into estivation, which is why those periods are periods that snails are quite expensive, because people who go into the bush to find them can no longer find them. Those snails have gone into hiding, and that is also the time that snail farmers like us sell our snails in good prices. All right, for good prices rather. Okay, so the seasonal nature of snails in the wild is majorly because of rainwater. Okay, nobody goes to give them water in the bush, so it's only rain that they can get their water from. And the land snails cannot go to the river or stream to drink, they will drown. So they rely only on rain. Now, during dry season, when there are no rains, which is the reason why they go into that estivation or hibernation that we talked about, and they only come out of that estivation period when the rains have started, from March, April downward. Okay, so they come out of estivation and then they start eating rapidly, and then they start producing, and then during the dry season they go back again. That's the cycle of the snail in the bush. But for those of us that are into captured snailry, because we are watering them every day, they feel like it is raining season all year round, so they produce on a daily basis. Okay, they produce all the time because they don't know the difference. They don't even know that it's not raining, because all they know is that they are getting the water they need. The soil they are living in is cold enough for them. In fact, they drink 30 to 40% of their water from the soil, which is why you need to water the soil. But like I said, not waterlogged, but you need to be sprinkling water on the soil. All right, so intensive system. Now let's talk a little about the intensive system. In the intensive system of snail farming, you are fully responsible and you're fully in control of everything that concerns the snail. Everything from its feeding, security, water, everything, because You are the one that captured it. You are the one that is caging this snail in a box. So you have to be concerned. You have to be in control. You have to be in charge of everything that concerns the snail. Some persons might ask, the snails in the bush, who goes to water them? Who goes to feed them? Why do I need to feed them? Because I'm training snails. When they are in the bush, they find the food for themselves. But now that they are in your cage that you call a house for them, they don't have the freedom to move and fend for themselves. So you need to feed them. You need to water them. You need to be careful the kind of soil they are living in. So ants and other insects will not come and damage them. So everything is in your hands. Now the good thing about it is, for the soil, shortly we're going to talk about how to uh, prepare your snail houses. So in those detailed construction processes, I will tell you what you need to do to prevent predators from all angles, both from under the soil, from outside the pen, and from on top, which is flying insects. I'll teach you everything about how to prevent your snails from predation. Okay, so that's intensive system of snailry for you. You are fully in control, which is the person in charge, right? If you're the one that is into large scale farming, your farm attendant, your farm manager is the one in charge. You know the number of eggs that are in your snail farm, you know the number of hatchlings, you know the number of juveniles, you know the number of point of lays, because they are all in cages. But in the semi-intensive system, it's not the same. Now in the semi-intensive system, uh, what we mostly advise is, while you're going for the semi-intensive system, which is mostly the greenhouse system, you still have concrete pen or hutch boxes where you control your breeding. Now how do you control your breeding? Let's assume you have 10 concrete pen. You have maximum 50 snails in these 10 concrete pens, which is 500 snails, 500 breeder snails. Okay, now these snails, when they produce and give you eggs, you are the one picking these eggs. Like you already know, you don't pick them with your hands, you pick them with a rubber spoon. Okay, you pick them and then you incubate them in an incubator pen that you have provided. Okay, when they now hatch after 21 days, you take these hatchlings. For the concrete, for the intensive system, you take these hatchlings to another pen. Okay, but for the semi-intensive system, as you're carrying the hatchlings, you're taking them to the greenhouse, where they will feel as if they are in the bush, because the greenhouse is fully planted with vegetables that they will eat. So they just live in there. The only difference with the semi-intensive and intensive system is that for the semi-intensive, you cannot really tell the number of snails that you have, because in as much as you can calculate the ones that your breeders have given to you, what about when they get to point of lay, like your 500, which is the one we use as an example now, your 500 breeder snails, the eggs that they laid, that hatched, that you have thrown into the um, greenhouse, those ones, when they grow to 6 months, they are also now at point of lay. They will start laying. But because it's a greenhouse or free range system, you will not know how many they laid, how many actually hatched, how many actually grew up to maturity. So you can't be able to tell. But the good thing about the greenhouse system is that the number of, or the land mass that would have that you would use for a greenhouse system is quite smaller compared to intensive system. You can now, in a plot of land 50 by 100, in Nigeria, in most parts of Nigeria, a plot of land is 50 by 100. Now that 50 by 100 land mass can contain maximum 200 snail houses. Okay, snail pen. Now if you have 50 in each of these snail pens, that's 50 times 10, 500 times 100, 5,000 times 200, 10,000 snails. But half plot of a land, which is 25, right, which is 25 by 50, is that it? 25 by 50. Half of that 25 by 50 can contain a greenhouse that will carry about 60,000 snails. Those are some of the benefits of the greenhouse system. All right, so you get to have more snails in a limited space or landmass. Okay, so those are the benefits of the semi-intensive and the intensive system. We're going to end this here. Okay, in the next video, we're going to talk about how you can actually select a site for your snail production. Like I said before, if there's anything you don't understand, first of all, go through the training again. And then if you still don't understand, send me a DM. You can call me on phone. I would answer. All right. So see you in the next video.